Morning, good afternoon, good evening to a few out there. It is the Earthmaster here on this Wednesday, October 29th, 2025 date, 10:38 a.m. local time here in California. Latest activity here on the Earthquake 3D globe shows looks like a 1.5 across California in the green flag. Notice some larger activity offshore here of the Pacific Northwest. That's out there on the Blanco Fracture Zone. Got a handful of earthquakes stirring up out here off the coast of Oregon. Now, it's been a little while since we've seen any activity out here. Last 30 days of movement shows some activity further south here along that southern end of the Blanco Fracture Zone. Of course, what goes on out here in the fracture boundaries ultimately affects areas here, southeast here towards the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. Notice the ridges here being formed throughout time, also just north here of the Gorda ridges. There's a little section because of the strike slip boundary. Tend to add further strain out here, creating new tearing of the ocean crust here, creating some new land underneath there due to the magma and stuff coming up slowly. But again, this is all adding further strain out here across the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. Been a little while, but 5.4 stirring up. Looks like previous to that there was a 4.8. There was an earthquake being listed over here across the Cascadia subduction zone roughly about that time, but it looks like it may have been a phantom quake or a false earthquake that was picked up from the seismic wave of either the 4.8 or the 5.4. Right now, it only looks like there's two earthquakes. I know on the Earthquake 3D globe, they're showing two 5.4s, but that's got to do with, that's at 10 kilometers, 7 a.m. I'm not for sure why they're showing two. Maybe it's got something to do with the location. They're not matching up identically, they're not identical. So the combination here of the USGS and the EMSC data, it will show two if they're not exactly lined up when it comes to the data. So there was technically only one, but man, definitely got to watch that. Cascadia subduction zone, fairly well primed for a big earthquake, and when you account for the San Andreas fault too, it's kind of a bad scenario out here if they both go. In fact, a lot of news agencies out here recently have been pushing that narrative there and it's not really a narrative. It's more or less like historical documents or historical activity that's took place here. There has been linkage. They found linkage there. When the Cascadia goes, it can also rupture the San Andreas fault. And, of course, that would be a widespread devastating event if both of these go at the same time or shortly thereafter one another. It's not that it's worst case scenario. Good possibility that could happen with the amount of time that's passed out here. It is likely. Let me show you guys the tremor map here from the yesterday time period. Slow slip events towards the southern end starting to pick up, about 79 epicenters. I think this will probably be elevated a little bit later on when we check out the data. Once the data updates, it should be elevated just because of the activity that's stirring up off the coast there into the Blanco Fracture Zone. That should further strain this area. So definitely have to watch that. West Coast lighting up as well. I mean, Southern California. Number of earthquakes out here. Let's see what we got. The latest shows a 2.6 outside Fresno near Yosemite Lakes towards the western edge here of the Sierra Nevada mountains. Previous to that, some earthquake activity stirring up in Baja California last night when we were doing the update. Looks like we did see a handful of earthquakes north. Still getting some movement down south here. But no big earthquake activity to note there across Southern California for now, but we're seeing an increase in movement for sure. Malibu Coast Fault has a second earthquake on it this morning, a 1.7. That's been somewhat active. Nothing big going on the San Andreas Fault for now. Up in the Bay Area, a couple earthquakes scattered out and about across a number of faults. That's a sign here that things are increasing when we're seeing multiple fault systems show activity. Got to watch the Hayward Fault. That's a pretty active region there along the East Bay that is past the regular reoccurrence interval of a large earthquake. It is past that time period. I believe it's 140 to 150 years on average. I think we're at 156 if I recall. But yeah, we're well overdue out here along the West Coast in many, many areas. Got some swarming going on out in Nevada as well, sign of stress along the plate boundary, right? A lot of stuff moves inland when things are compacted and pressurized. North American plate was moving last night. We've seen it. Started getting earthquake activity in Kansas. Yellowstone National Park up there, super volcano, had some activity. It does look like it's still swarming. They did add a number of earthquakes there from yesterday in the one range. I knew it, and I was talking about this. Normally when an earthquake of a 3.7 stirs up, that's a sign of a swarm, that things are swarming out there. And there was really no way to know because these guys were not reporting the data. I get it with the government shutdown, but it's happened even when the government's running full blast and they're getting paid well. It's just been a thing here with the lack of reporting for Yellowstone when it comes to the smaller microquakes. But it does look like they've accounted for quite a few of them. We had a 3.7 yesterday there. That's a little bit of a downgrade from the original quake, which was a 3.8. If it held at a 3.8, that would have been the largest quake in this area in about 2 years. But it dropped to 3.7, and we had a 3.7, a couple of them earlier this year. The significance, though, is a swarm that's stirring up. We got two specific areas, one over here around the Hebgen Lake area and also around Mammoth. Now, 22 earthquakes, not a big deal, but I'm wondering how many more is actually happening out here. Let's go check out the seismograph stations, and I'll show you guys why I'm wondering and why I'm left wondering, because we won't really know. If you look at the data here, you know, the amplitudes of the seismograph station are about as squashed as you could be. Maybe not completely, but these are some earthquakes of a magnitude, these are about 7 in the morning. Well, let's see here. 2.3 at 1 o'clock in the morning. There's a couple ones in there as well, but I am 8 o'clock, 7, 6 o'clock. Let me go back here. 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Now, I know 1.4, 1.6. See, I think here that they're reporting some of the smaller quake activity, but these got to be bigger because we compared those to the 3.7 that stirred up yesterday. Look what a 3.7 did. It still just barely registered on this seismograph station. There was a couple other 2s in there as well. I am seeing what looks like some more 2s this morning, but they're really not matching up with the time period that they have here on the USGS map. So I'm thinking there's a lot more earthquake activity stirring up here than what's being reported. And the reason why I'm wondering, and we won't really know, is because the amplitudes here they should be turned up so we can actually see more of what's going on here. They've done something in the last 3 months to where it looks like garbage. I'm not even joking. You can't barely see a 3.7 show up on the graph like that. What it used to look like, we'll go back here, I think in June was fine. This is kind of what it looked like. The amplitudes were more, readable. There was smaller quake activity showed up. And also you could actually see, things that may be happening underneath the ground, like if there was magma movement or something like that. But this was wind at the time. And you see it show up all across the park. I miss that. I miss being able to see the smaller quakes and the environmental noise that's taking place out here, because even if there's like magma or something underneath the area that's brewing, then we could at least pick it up. We'll never see it the way the amplitudes are lined up right now with the newer system. But also this area of Yellowstone is it's inflating slightly. This is about the closest area to where the earthquake swarm in Yellowstone is stirring up. Notice since about 2020 or so, we do have some vertical uplift. Not a lot, but it is noticeable here on the graph by about 20, well, maybe 40 mm or so. And that, it tells us that things are inflating specifically in that area. And this is a region where we have earthquake activity ongoing. So it's interesting, for sure. I just wish, let me go over and check, see if the USGS Webby quarters are up to date. We've been checking this, but they've been offline or old. And they are still old. Look at that. From 5 days ago. This is the official USGS site. I know they have, a little notice up there. The data may not be current, but I mean, shouldn't these just update themselves, right? Daily? I mean, there's a system, should be a system in process where it doesn't take a human to, manually change a digital seismograph station each day. It should just bounce over. But for whatever reason, these are all offline. Well, some are offline, but the majority of these are old, 5 days old. And with this, and when you look at, I wish it looked like that again, but when you look at the current day, look at that, look at the seismograph lines there. Why? What's the whole purpose of this? And it's not this person's fault. Is this thing on.org? It's a University of Utah where he gets the official data at. Let me see here real quick. Let me see if the University of Utah monitoring. Is this the link? Recent earthquake station map. Let's see here real quick. We'll go up here to Yellowstone and check out a couple of these seismograph stations. This one's very close to the, well, that one's offline. That's a plate boundary station. Check this one. See, that one's off. You can't really access that one. This one over here is, see, it's squashed. And this is just not cool, because it's just barely shown. These are supposed to be the mid to upper twos, and I'm just wondering how many other microquakes are happening in here that we're really not seeing. But what's going on here, this is the official link, and the owner of isthisthingOn.org implements or integrates the that image into his layout here of Yellowstone, which is cool. I used to love using this site, but it's irrelevant now because we can't see really what's going on there. I don't know whose idea that was to switch it up like that, but that was not cool. So not a good time for everything to be offline. If we got a swarm going on there at Yellowstone, it could be a big one. Who knows? Maybe I'll have to pull up a seismograph station there. Let's see if that will pick up some of the data. It's weird. The live data is different. The live data will show earthquake activity, but when it comes to the recorded data out here, it's just squashed for some reason. All right, moving on here. Let's see, any more activity? Kansas had a couple more. Well, one more late last night, another 3.2. It's some interesting activity there across the center portion of the north of the states. New Madrid seismic zone from yesterday. Well, yeah, from yesterday. Let's see what we got going on globally here. I see New Zealand had a 5-pointer late last night. That is down there across that southern end there of the Alpine Fault. That has been having a lot of earthquake activity over the last several months. Some big ones as well, but the Alpine Fault up north that runs through the west side of South Island, that's fairly well locked and loaded, similar to the San Andreas Fault, can produce a big earthquake, and the amount of time that has passed is definitely, possible we could see something big happen there. Another deep earthquake in the Tonga Trench. Notice that white ring there raised off the globe. That just coming in, it looks like, 412 miles deep into that subduction zone. That's going to further stress this area back across the region of the Indonesia area, Philippines. That's normally where the strain tends to head towards. Right now, just some smaller quake activity in the 3 and 4 range. It does look like a recent 3.1 coming in right now, following that deeper quake there into the Tonga Trench, almost immediately happening. Up around Japan, pretty quiet. Kamchatka area, quiet as well. Some older movement from yesterday, but I do think we need to watch areas that have not significantly moved in quite a while. And I'm talking about the West Coast. Got a 5.4 up in Iceland. It's been pretty active up there. Still swarming out in Turkey. Bunch of 3s and 2s. I do think something bigger is brewing out there as well, just the way that the earthquake sequences have been they've been stirring up out here. See the couple 6s, a couple different swarms, and it's just a lot of earthquake activity that we've seen here recently. We've seen 2 6-pointers, but they were separated by about 2 months. And it's just, it stirs up out of the blue. It makes me think something bigger is brewing out there. Got some activity south as well along the South Sandwich Trench. 1 second. Oh man, I felt it coming. That's why I said 1 second. I could have turned my mic off, but I think it would have came out by then. Anyway, apologize about that. Occasionally it happens, but you know, I'm only human. I'm not a robot. All right, what else we got here? Let's see if there's anything bigger brewing. I mean, there's obviously stuff brewing out here, but as far as any overnight activity, yeah, that Cascadia, we do have to watch that, folks. We'll check out the tremor map a little bit later on this evening, like I said. Nothing going on out in Hawaii for now. Just want to look here real quick, see what we got. Is this on the Parkfield section? It's a little 0.1. Yeah, I think it is. Right at the interchange there of the creeping section and the Parkfield section. But this one looks like it is pretty close to the Parkfield section. And I focus on this one a lot because this is it's studied a lot in terms of the typical reoccurrence intervals of large quakes on this section of the San Andreas Fault. It normally happens every 20 to 22 years like clockwork. It can variate a little bit, deviate off of that specific time, but 2004 was our last 6-pointer out here, so we're in that window of potential. And with the way everything's locked out here and built up over a long period, including the Cascadia, you know, it's possible we could see back-to-back earthquake up and down the plate boundary out here. That includes the Cascadia all the way down the San Andreas Fault. They found linkage. They found, you know, past historical events there where it's happened. And it could happen again. Sometimes they happen hours after one another or days. We got to be, I can't stress it enough, we do have to be prepared out here. And it just seems like, you know, now is a time period, out of all the times in the past, you know, with everything else going on in the world, where it would make sense that that would happen. Just with everything else that's going on. I'll just leave it at that. Let's see, space weather activity. We do have, you know, still have some coronal hole activity facing us. 91 is a fairly lengthy one. This one's about, well, this is a day old, so this has shifted a little bit further here to the western side of the sun. But we do have 93, which is probably more center disk. Let's take a look here at the, oh, that's offline too. I was wondering why that image on the live stream was offline. Interesting there. So, don't know why that's offline. Same for the everything's going offline, right? Now's the time for a disaster to happen because they're going to blame it on the government shutdown. You see what I'm talking about when it comes to you know, natural hazards and disasters and big events? Now is the perfect time for something major to happen. I don't think it's going to be a strong solar flare because that's just, sunspots are pretty wimpy. I mean, look at that. We're down into the B 4.0 category. Hello, that's like solar minimum. Even though we have a number of sunspots out there, I did not mean to click that one. None of these are complex, so therefore it will remain low. Did the aurora activity ever stir up? It looks like there's a little bit right now starting to stir up, but they had the G1 class storm up here for a little while, and I pretty much called that. I said it was going to either hit us or it's going to miss us and not give us a maybe. This right now isn't even really anything to write home about. Very minimal activity there across the space weather world, far as flaring and aurora activity goes. 5% chance for an M flare. I don't recall the last time I ever seen that. Well, it's been a little while, right? We've been in solar maximum here for a bit, so 1% or less for X flare, 70% for C flare activity. The latest conditions there on Hurricane Melissa, which is now moving, I'm sure, past Cuba and into the Bahamas area. Let's see where we're at. Oh, man, it's getting shredded there. Yeah, just got through moving over the Cuba area as a pretty strong hurricane. But that is starting to... it definitely got shredded a little bit. Here's the area of circulation. Notice that it's starting to reform a little bit before it makes the landfall there into the Bahamas area. But I don't know if it's going to regain rapid strength. Some of the weather models are starting to show it come back up into Category 3 strength, while others are showing a Category 2 and then dropping rapidly. The current state shows 100 mile per hour sustained winds. Crazy how that drops so fast when it goes over land. Moving northeast, picking up speed at about 15 miles per hour. So there's still obviously hurricane warnings in effect across the area, up towards Bermuda as well. Right now, Bahamas next in line. So just a heads up. As far as anything major going on out here across the states, got low pressure system out there bringing a little bit of severe weather potential across the east. I don't think it's anything big, just some rain. Little slight chance here for some tornado activity across the extreme eastern portion there of the country for some tornado activity. Wind, and that's about it. Going to make the wind chimes blow a little bit out there today. Nothing really coming up. Quick glance here at the GFS weather models here, predictive models, or guidance models, I should say. Oh yes, thank you so much. Please, oh man, I'm gonna have to keep my fingers crossed till the November 6th time period. I don't think I could do that though. But I'm hoping it's looking likely that we'll see a return of a significant rain event here across Northern California. It's been trending wetter and wetter, which is good. That makes me happy, man. I'm not even joking. I'm a big-time rain lover. Fair weather and 70 degrees, southern sunny California all the time. It's not really sunny all the time, but that is not for me. I like the rain. Some people love the fair weather, but I am not a fair weather type of guy. Bring on the storms. All right, anyway, yeah, it looks good. I'm hopeful, very hopeful. That's the GFS model. Precipitation accumulation amounts here show a pretty hefty amount, except for the rain shadow in the valley. But there's a little bit of a rotation there to the south, which will funnel up moisture a little bit more into the valley. So I'm really not worried about that rain shadow, even though it's showing it on the map. ECMWF model doesn't quite go out that far, but it's coming. We got rain coming up here, folks. So at least for California and the Pacific Northwest. They moved the precipitation level, far as above precipitation or below. They moved that further south for the 8 to 14 day forecast, for the 6 to 10 day forecast as well. So that is good. That means that Oregon and Washington's not just going to get the brunt of it. Much below across Texas and the center portion of the country here for the 6 to 10 day. The 8 to 14 day forecast for those folks shows about the same. All right, any close approach asteroids coming in? I believe at least that's working, right? I mean, that's pretty important that we watch what's coming at us in space. That one's coming in today. 62,000 miles, pretty close, but 11 foot. Everything else out there pretty far at a distance. We'll just kind of keep an eye on things here today, folks. Like I said, when you can almost find a pattern of when things happen. Like disasters tend to happen during like depression events and government shutdowns and whatnot. It's possible. It would make sense that a major disaster would happen while we're not prepared. I'm prepared. I hope you are too. But when it comes to surviving this, we definitely need to have a plan out here and be prepared. Don't keep your. I'm not saying go to the store and buy thousands and thousands of dollars of groceries, but don't live day to day. You don't want to just have enough food for one day out there. I never do that. I'm stocked up like galore. That's just how I am, though. I'm always been a prepper, so to speak. When it comes to making sure I have sufficient food for long term, water is a big one. You know, toiletry stuff, soap, extra gallons of water for if it's doing dishes or taking a bath or not a bath. Probably wouldn't want to take a bath, but a shower, whatnot. Yeah, it's just good to be prepared out here, folks, because when a big one hits, it will definitely set us back quite a bit. And if we're not prepared as far as the emergency management goes, then it's going to be even worse. So we'll catch you guys out here a little bit later on for the Wednesday night update. Halloween is getting very close. Pretty crazy here. It's coming up on Friday. I can't wait. Actually, it's one of my favorite times there. Go out with the kids and get some candy, trick or treat. It's fun. I've liked it. It's kind of neat to see everyone out and about and just interacting with the neighbors and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. I kind of like it. Kids like it too. Have a good one. We'll see you guys out here for the Wednesday night update unless something major happens. Have a good one.